Aloha y bienvenidos to the Tiki Talk Show with Dean and Niri Martini. I'm Dean Martini.
I'm Niri Martini. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
In this episode, we're talking to Frank Merle, film director and producer of the 2025 film Namaka, a tiki thriller.
Hello.
I hope I got that pronunciation name correct for
Yes.
the movie.
You got my name right, you got the movie right. So far, we're doing great.
So, okay, Frank, we got a couple of questions about this movie. We saw the trailer already. There will be no spoiler alerts on this. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the film industry.
I always loved movies, but I never really thought that I could do films for a living because I didn't know anybody who made films. I grew up in Chicago, and I always knew I wanted to be a writer. At one point, I thought maybe the next great American novelist, right? Or maybe a journalist. But I ended up going to college for theater producing and playwriting, and at the Goodman School of Drama at DePaul University in Chicago, and because I loved theater. And theater was Chicago is a great theater town. While I was there, while I was still a student, myself and some other students, we started our own theater company, and we would do some new plays, we would do classics, and I had a lot of fun doing that. I spent most of my 20s producing theater in Chicago. Slowly got into film, just at first as a hobby, just making short films, putting them on YouTube. It was fun to get that immediate feedback. What I liked about film was that it's permanent. When I would put on a play, you would put a lot of work into it, spend a lot of money. It would run, if you had a hit play, it would run for maybe 3 months at most. And then you tear down the sets and the play doesn't exist anymore. And I understand that's the charm of theater, but for me, I started to get more and more sad with every show I did, especially if it was one that I was really proud of. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that you could put that same amount of work, spend the same money, and make something that's going to last, that people could find forever and ever, was really appealing to me. Yeah. And so as a filmmaker, I was just very self-taught. I read every book I could on the subject to learn, lighting and framing and that kind of thing. I knew how to work with actors from my theater background. And when I started making short films, I was using, my network of friends to help me make those movies. And I tried to get a little more sophisticated with each one, started entering film festivals and writing screenplays. And so at a certain point, I decided to make that leap and move to Los Angeles and try to do the film thing. And so once again, I got every book I could on the subject of independent film producing. And to try to figure out how to do it, how to make something out of nothing. And I've been doing this now for 15 years.
Wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great to be able to do something you love, right?
Yes, and the thing I had hoped, the idea that movies exist forever, it really is rewarding for me. My first feature film 12 years ago now, The Employer, I still get, people will discover the movie. It's on Tubi and Amazon. So I'll get messages on social media. Hey, I just saw that movie. It was awesome. So I said, well, check out my new one too.
So before we get too far into the interview, tell us what your new film Namaka is about.
Namaka is a tropical fantasy adventure thriller about a guy from the mainland who takes a vacation with his family to Hawaii, and while he's there, he's searching for a new sound. He's a musician, and his career has sort of hit a rough patch. He was in a band, and right before the band took off, he sort of fell out with that band, and so now he's feeling very vulnerable, very alone. And so he decided, while on vacation in Hawaii, he says, you know what, I'm going to pick up the ukulele and I'm going to try some new sounds, and maybe this is going to be my new identity. Okay, he's really he's a guy who's unmoored and he's looking for answers. And so along the way, while he's looking for answers, he finds this mysterious young woman named Namaka, and she is a local native young woman who becomes very infatuated with him and wants to teach him everything that she can about Hawaiian culture. And 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 so he becomes led astray, spending less and less time with his family, more and more time alone in the woods with this mysterious young woman who, it's revealed eventually, one small little spoiler, but it's in the trailer, I suppose, that she's actually a demigod.
So Namaka is actually it means goddess of the sea, or
Yes, that's correct. So she is a sister of Pele. A lot more people have heard of Pele, the goddess of fire and volcanoes, right? And so in my version of the story, she is half god. So like Maui. Okay, so a lot of people are familiar with Moana. Um, the Disney movie, and
Mhm.
Maui in the Disney movie has that song "You're Welcome,"
Mhm.
and and that is based on this Polynesian myth that I was reading several times. I sort of read the same story about how the demigods, because they're half human and half god, become obsessed with humans. They don't feel at home in either world, and so they
Mhm.
very much want adoration from humans.
Yes.
And that's why, so Maui talks about all the wonderful things he did for the humans because he wants that
Mhm.
adoration, right? And so as I was doing my research and kind of coming up with ideas for this movie, that's sort of what I landed on this. Well, what if that desire for human adoration turned into a fatal attraction?
Oh.
Right, that's what I was
I,
gonna say. If this is a little bit of like a tiki Hawaiian fatal attraction.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. If I did it, my two word pitch for this movie is evil Moana.
So every director has this spark, like if you, as you were mentioning just now. So when did the idea of Namaka first come around, and it's tapping you on the shoulders, like, hey, you should probably make this movie.
When I was on vacation in Hawaii. it's
Of course.
it's because I anywhere I go to travel, I like to learn about the culture and do as much as I can. Research. I go to museums, talk to local people, and Hawaii is such a beautiful place, and the people are so wonderful. And there's obviously also um, a, a bit of an identity crisis
Mhm.
between native Hawaiians, and they don't like want too much tourism. They don't want too many outsiders moving in. I mean, I there's some statistic I read, 80% of people living in Hawaii today were not born in Hawaii. A lot of native Hawaiians have moved away from Hawaii for economic reasons. And so I'm not saying that this movie, is a deep dive into any of those issues, but I was fascinated at a using mythology as a fable, to just help put up a mirror to modern society, right? And
Mhm.
so I have this outsider who comes in, and he's looking for answers. He's looking for something new. He's desperate he wants to be seduced, right?
Mhm.
And so he's allowing Hawaii to seduce him, as I observed a lot of people do, right? And so, as I was writing this, got to thinking a lot about Tiki culture, right? Because there's a difference between Tiki and Polynesian, right?
Mhm.
Right.
There's authentically Polynesian, and then there's Tiki, which is a fantasy version of that, right? So as I was writing the script, I wanted to strike a good balance, and one of the first people I reached out to when I was writing it was a Polynesian cultural advisor, who ended up coming on board as one of the producers of the film, and she gave me a lot of great notes to make certain elements more authentic, but at the same time she gave me the freedom to make my own version of the story, because it's you're these are we're talking about demigods, and we're talking about the volcano getting angry and coming alive. So she really did allow me to make my own version of the story, and that's sort of when I landed on, I may be making a tiki movie. you
Mhm.
know A dark fantasy adventure, because um, danger and darkness is always seems to be part of Tiki, doesn't it?
Right. And so, just a little side question on this is, just like how your main character was seduced by this Hawaiian demigod. Were you also, since you said that you got this idea while you were in Hawaii, so I guess we could say that you were also seduced by the beauty of Hawaii, and maybe this came to you as well?
Absolutely. I met a lot of people there who were, people from the mainland who they had, so many people had the same story. I came to Hawaii 20 years ago on vacation, and all the answers suddenly came to me. So I quit my job as a banker or, a lawyer. I quit my job, sold everything I had, and now I'm happy as a clam living on the beach. So I wasn't that fully seduced. But I was fascinated by that notion of people seeking out some sort of fantasy reality, right? And I think this is the why tiki bars have been making such a comeback. Tiki culture has been making such a comeback because the real world is pretty rough, right? And so you walk into a tiki bar, it's hard to be in a bad mood, right? So
Exactly.
and I know I'm making a movie, obviously not just for the Tiki community, but for everybody to enjoy the movie. And so the idea of the seduction of the fantasy version of island life, right? That was a key point for me, is that it is a fantasy. It's not necessarily the right answer for everyone. But probably wherever you live, there's probably a tiki bar somewhere near you that if you haven't yet checked out, maybe when your job is giving you a hard time or life has got you down, maybe check out a tiki bar, and for an hour or two you'll be transported to the islands.
Right. We all need that little bit of escapism.
Yes. And that's what the movies are, right? Like, especially genre films like thrillers, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this movie does have a touch of comedy in it. One of the lead actors in this film is Jamie Kennedy, who a lot of people know him as a stand-up comic. He's a very funny guy. But he was also, one of the reasons I really wanted to work with Jamie is he's in my favorite film of all time, which is Scream.
I was going to say Scream. It must be Scream.
Yeah. Scream, the original Scream, Jamie plays the horror film expert in that movie, right? And so in this movie, I have a self-proclaimed island expert, right? But I wanted it to be one of these like parrot head type guys, right? Who's sort of like, he moved to Hawaii and claims to be an expert, but he's not really. And so when I reached out to Jamie with the script and an offer for this role, that's how I pitched it to him. I said, imagine if Randy Meeks, your character from Scream, if he had survived and moved to Hawaii, changed his name, and this is where he might be 30 years later. And he loved that.
I like that.
Yeah.
So before this movie, you talking about all the tiki culture and everything, were you into tiki?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, to the extent of I love tiki bars, right? And Aloha shirts, right? And so I had never been, for example, to this year in promoting the film was my first time going to Tiki Oasis in San Diego. And that was a real eye-opener how vibrant the community really was. So that was sort of new for me. And it was wonderful. Like, I had these postcards that I was handing out for the movie, and people were just so wonderful, excited to hear, to me about the movie and learn about the movie and take a postcard with them. So since making the movie, I've certainly become more aware of how great this community is. I've always liked my tiki drinks. Yeah, let's say that.
Don't we all?
Yeah, I think everybody has their one thing why they were brought into tiki. One of the biggest ones, the drinks.
Yep.
So if you could describe Namaka, and also the second part of that would be, talk a little bit about the actress playing Namaka. If you could describe her using only a tiki bar drink, which cocktail would best capture the mood and the characters and the journey of this movie?
All right, I got it right. I love the question, but I'm going with Missionary's Downfall.
Oh,
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
We- because what we find out is that this character, she is yeah, she's man crazy, and and so I just like the idea that no one can escape her. She being immortal, she's been doing this for a long time, so she has perfected the art of seduction, and she will tell you exactly what you need to hear in order to fall in love with her. And
amazing.
I've always, a missionary downfall is it's a fun drink, and it's just one I always giggle at that name when I hear it. Picture the missionary who, he means well, right?
Yeah.
He might go into the bar and say, "I'll just have one," right? But not once you've had the missionary's downfall. It's all over.
Was
And
there
then if there was a drink that would represent my other lead character, Alex, it would be the suffering bastard.
Perfect.
So during the filming of the movie, did you have any moments on the set and when the beach or the weather technology, I don't know, was like, uh-oh, not today. We're not filming today. What was your biggest like curveball?
So I was very, very concerned about the weather. Most of this movie takes place outdoors. And so when it's a challenge in film always when you can't control the weather. And so what you tend to do is there's a concept in when you're scheduling a movie, you tend to want to do as much of the outdoor stuff as you can early in the schedule, save the indoor stuff for later, and then be able to pivot if possible. So sometimes there's a concept of a cover set. The cover set is the backup plan, right? And so if it rains, we're going to go and do this other thing instead, right? Well, I was happy to say that during the 3 weeks of this shoot, because this is a low budget movie. It was a short shoot. But over that 3 weeks, we had the most gorgeous weather.
oh,
And
lovely.
that was, I remember when a full year went by, and then it was exactly 1 year later, uh, thunderstorms every day on those days on the calendar. And I just thought about how lucky I was. In fact, the one time there was rain, it was on our day off, and so I'd like to think that, maybe we were doing something right, that the weather held out for us. But the biggest challenge actually with those exteriors was we were shooting in winter. And so even though it's a nice climate where we are, it wasn't all that cold, but the days were very short. And you need actual sunshine. The sun needs to be shining to shoot exteriors during the day. And so we would have our call time very early, maybe 5 a.m. It's pitch dark out, right? Because the plan was everybody needed to be in hair and makeup and wardrobe, and the set needed to be lit and ready to go. Everything needs to be, by the time the sun is high enough in the sky to get the daylight shots, we needed to be ready to go. And so that's what we did. And then at that time of year, by about 3:30 in the afternoon, you're losing light already. And so really we only had 8 hours of shooting, which on movies, cast and crews are used to doing much longer days. I do want to go back and talk about, you had mentioned Ash, the actress who plays Namaka.
Yes. Mhm.
And I just wanted to talk about, that was a real discovery for me. I did an open casting call. What I did is I put out a press note, or not a press notice, a casting notice describing the character. Essentially, I'm looking for a Hawaiian goddess. And I had, I think, 300 submissions of
Oh, wow.
actresses who all seemed to fit the part. And so out of that 300, I invited about 50 of them to do a self-tape, which is an at-home audition. And so, they read a little scene from the movie, sent it in to me. Of those 50, I picked about 10 or 15 to come in for a callback, right? And then I spent 8 hours in callbacks working with each actor, working with, the other actors coming in. I was auditioning for the other roles as well. Ash won the role. I mean, beat out 300 other people. I like to say, she perfectly embodied both sides of the goddess, because she has to be very, seductive and lovely in the first half of the movie, and then obviously there's a twist. If you've seen the trailer, you know that all is not well with her. And so I was really looking for someone who could embody both sides of the character, the good and the evil, and she was wonderful. And she's done a lot of like rom-coms, and she's so she's usually, most of her roles, she's very sweet. And so getting to do the other side of it, I think, was a real treat for her.
But yeah, I'm always intrigued about the film industry and the whole process. Does it take longer to do that whole audition part and get it all set up, and then you just did like 3 weeks for the movie?
Time is money, and in film you never have enough time or money. And so the audition process, I mean, like I said, I did all the callbacks just in one day. So a lot of that is just going through the self-tapes. I locked in my cast maybe just like 2 or 3 weeks before we started shooting. So they didn't have that much time to prep. But they don't need that much time to prep. That's, in fact, I've heard a lot of actors say, I'd rather not know 6 months ahead of time, because what do I do with that information? So like, right. Being able to just focus, and 3 weeks, it sounds very short to shoot a full feature, but when everybody, I have a full crew, maybe 30 people working on this movie, all sort of targeted towards the same goal. Getting the finished film into homes, that took longer, because with an independent film, you don't know how it's going to, get to market. I needed to find distribution. And so right. that was a whole separate challenge, but not the fun. The fun part is making the movie. and now getting to talk about it and getting to share the movie with audiences. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get into the speed round here. So if Namaka had been made in the 1960s during the heyday of Tiki, who would have starred? Who would have starred in it?
Ooh, you're putting me on the spot. But sadly, with whitewashing in the 60s, it probably wouldn't have been a Polynesian star. But I'd like to say it would have been a discovery. They would have made a discovery, that would have been nice.
Directors tend to have like a signature move, a shot, the transition, something that that's their go-to all the time. Do you have something like that? And does it show up in Namaka?
A long shot, when it's done well, you're using framing very wisely, and the audience doesn't even notice that it's not cutting anymore, but you get a more authentic performance. So it takes a lot more pre-planning to do a long shot. So there is a scene. Again, it's not a spoiler because it's right there in the trailer, but at one point in the movie, our two leads do kiss. And I wanted that kiss to come at the end of an awful lot of tension between the two of them. Okay. And so there is about a 90-second shot, which is a long time in movie time, where the two of them are just talking and getting to know each other. And it starts out in a wide shot. And as the two characters come closer together, the camera is pushing in and getting in closer and closer and more intimate with them until the kiss.
Don't think so much.
And that is my signature shot. There's a very similar shot in The Employer where the character in The Employer is trying to seduce the guy. She doesn't succeed. She's trying to get him to kiss her. And I do the same shot. It's the same long shot. It's leading up to the kiss, and then he breaks the tension, and there is no kiss. So I sort of see this as like the counterpoint to that.
I'll be looking for that.
Cool.
So what's the most unexpected thing that you learned while making this film?
When you're running a happy set, you get the best work out of everybody. And this was just such a joyful set. And I think part of it because, I was wearing my Aloha shirts, and I was coming in with I was bringing Aloha to set, and we had our Polynesian cultural advisor on set. We were doing a traditional hula in one scene. There's ukulele music in the movie, and so some of it is set out in the jungle, and some of it is set in a tiki bar. There was just so much happiness on set that I got the best work out of the crew and I got wonderful performances out of the actors, and I was able to capture something that I think is very special. And so when you're, and we were all looking forward to showing up for work every day, and
Yeah.
you sometimes you hear horror stories about how hard it was making that movie, but I think that this was a real joy to make, and I feel that joy comes across in the final product.
Okay, so as far as overall the movie, what scene do you think after people watch it, that's the one that they're like, hey, that part in the movie, like without trying giving away too much, but something that you think would be on everybody's mind? That one scene.
I'm extremely proud of Jamie Kennedy's first entrance because I think a lot of people know him from Scream. A lot of people haven't seen him. He does more stand up nowadays than film. I mean, he's still in some movies, but a lot of people haven't seen him in a long time. So I wanted to give him a big entrance. So when we first see Jamie, he's lurking in the background in the tiki bar. He's sitting alone in one corner of the bar, and he's purposely in shadows, and we don't see his face right away. So you just sort of see him in profile, and he's minding his own business, drinking his drink, and then the main character walks in and goes up to the bar and He's sitting at the other side of the bar, and he orders a zombie, and Jamie says, "A zombie? That's a good choice. Do you know why it's called a zombie?" And then he has a monologue. So it's very first, and then I introduce him. And then we see his face for the first time. He gets up and he ominously is walking towards our main character as he's giving this long history about why it's called a zombie and the history of neurotoxins and pufferfish.
Oh my. He really goes in there.
and I wanted to so I did that on purpose. It was a little love letter to Jamie because I'm a fan of his, and he's so great, and it introduces the character. And then at the end of the movie, his last scene, I wanted to give him a big exit as well. And so so I don't want to give away the ending, but what I do is I sort of bookend him by having him exit in a very dramatic fashion. And so I think you're going to know it's his last scene in the movie when you see it, because it mirrors the beginning.
Where can we see the movie? When was it released, and where can we see it? How can we see it? How do we do that?
We had a premiere here in Hollywood in September, and we had a wonderful premiere. It was so exciting. And then we did a 2-week limited theatrical run where it played in New York and Los Angeles. I was able to take the film back to Chicago, my hometown, for a screening there, and that was wonderful. And now, as of last week, it's available for streaming on Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, YouTube Movies, Fandango, Hoopla, Dish Network, and DirecTV, and it's also available on DVD on Amazon. And you can find all those links at namakamovie.com.
All right,
Awesome.
perfect. Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to seeing it, and we want to thank you, Frank, for being on the Tiki Talk Show with Dean and Niri Martini.
Absolutely. This has been great. Thank you,
It
guys.
was awesome.
I can't wait to see the film.
Did you know that part of the movie was filmed at the Broken Compass, a tiki bar in Burbank, California?
Oh, that's super cool. I'm so glad when a movie's able to film inside a tiki bar. Cool.
Well, I'll be paying special attention to those scenes. I love watching movies that have scenes of tiki bars in them and trying to figure out which one it is.
Yeah, that's super cool. I can't wait to see it too. That's our show for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We'll see you next time on the Tiki Talk Show with Dean and Niri Martini.
Gracias.
Mahalo.